Good afternoon to you. Mark Sutton with HurricaneTrack.com here. Tuesday now, October the 10th, 2023. On today's update, we're going to talk about these two areas in the Atlantic Basin, keeping things a little bit interesting, especially when we look at the Euro with 93L over there in the Gulf of Mexico. Not so much what it's going to do in the Gulf, but what it does after, maybe some development out in the southwest Atlantic. We'll also look at the Pacific, where Lydia is going to make landfall in just a few hours, not far from Puerto Vallarta. I've been there, nice area. Yeah, they're going to get a hurricane later today and into tonight. And of course, today is the 5-year anniversary of one of our most remarkable accomplishments during this. Hurricane Michael, Category 5 at landfall. We had several camera systems all along this area of the Florida coastline, the Forgotten Coast, all the way to the Big Bend, even down to Cedar Key. I think we had 5 camera systems set up way back in 2018. One of those camera systems, of course, was right there at Mexico Beach, and it was a live cam. We had live video during the eye wall of a Category 5 hurricane. We had a camera like right there, and then on top of that camera, that morning of the 10th, Brent, our colleague and good friend from the Virgin Islands, he and I went back with hours to spare and put a GoPro box, that one right there. That's it. That's the camera box. It's in the office. Of course it's going to be here. That's a relic right there. That's a true testament to the power of our project, and that captured the GoPro. It was a Hero 4, very much like this one. I don't know if this is the exact GoPro, but it's a Hero 4, and it captured remarkable video of the entire process of a Category 5 at landfall. And we've used that video ever since to help with education programs, with science, with storm surge forecasting, at least understanding how storm surge works. The National Hurricane Center has used it, outreach programs, and of course even a few different law firms working with us to help homeowners who were getting denied because the wind in that Cat 5 was doing destruction before the storm surge came in. Sometimes that's not the case, but in Michael's case, yes, there was considerable damage from the eye wall, and then that violent surge came in and finished everything off. So a remarkable accomplishment from our project's perspective, but that area of Florida changed forever, certainly. And we've made a lot of friends down there because of Michael, and it's just something that I'll never forget. We have a documentary about it, well, a couple of them actually. Not so much a documentary, it's more of a project. I put the whole thing, the lead up, where we had our live cam from the vehicle that was going, and this is back again in 2018 where we're using an old iPhone. Now we use an old iPhone, but we use a program called Larix Broadcaster, and it just does so much better. We've come a long way since 2018, but this is us setting things up, and we get out to Mexico Beach, and this is the moment that we got there to set the camera up. There's the live cam. You see it go by there, and all of this would be changed within the coming hours. And if we advance forward just a little bit, I time-stamped all of this. Finally, we get ahead even more, and even more from there. Yeah, that's the eye wall of a Cat 5, ladies and gentlemen. And then it just kept on going, and it all calmed down. Eventually, we came back in the evening and picked up the camera box, the GoPro box, and it was still running. That is part of a documentary. You can search for it. I'll put a link to it in today's update, called Tracking the Hurricanes 2018. It chronicles Florence and Michael and everything else we were doing in 2018 as well. But this is a separate thing that I have done. I put this up last year, I think, basically in real time. Remember that show 24 with Kiefer Sutherland? And he would always say, especially the first few episodes, events occur in real time. This was real time. I'll put a link to this as well. It's called the Michael Project. From start to finish, what a Category 5 can do. And this is just Mexico Beach. Our 2018 documentary covers all the other angles that we had, and from Cedar Key through St. Mark's all the way over to Mexico Beach and a few points in between. No Michaels out there today, obviously. That's great. But we do have 93L in the Gulf of Mexico, and it's not going to develop into a named storm here, I don't think. They're only marginally, conditions that is, are only marginally favorable, but it could bring some squally conditions and much needed rain, especially to southern Louisiana along the Mississippi, the mouth of the Mississippi area. That would be great to see. Keep that salt water at bay a little bit, quite literally. And we'll talk about this more in a moment. And then we've got 92L, which is on its way to trying to become a tropical depression, it would appear. And then in the East Pac, we do have Lydia now at, oh wow, it's a Category 3. This must have just updated recently. Look at that. Cat 3 heading towards Puerto Vallarta right there. And that's going to be a pretty hard hit for them. That's a populated area. I flew in there 2 years ago for Pamela that made landfall near Mazatlan. Lydia farther to the south, I think is how you say it. This is what Lydia looks like on satellite there. Rapidly getting its act together. There's Puerto Vallarta right in here. Got a friend down there that helped us out during Pamela. Brent knew her from somebody that he knows. You know how all that works. And Judith is her name. Hopefully she and her family are ready for this. I think I'll send her a WhatsApp message after I'm done with this update. I just thought about it. We know a lot of people around the Western Hemisphere. I'm sure she's quite aware of what's coming, but I'll touch base with her. And yeah, boy, this is going to be interesting. We'll see what kind of video and updates come out of that area as Lydia goes through. Then we've got this interesting energy in the Gulf. Lydia's energy, Max is in here somewhere. It's leftover vorticity signature. Then we've got this stalled front and the westerly winds and lots of cool, dry fall air to the north. Just a lot of interesting things going on out there. But I think what's going to happen, we're going to pile up a lot of energy here in the Gulf, and it's going to head up into this direction, giving parts of the central Gulf Coast states over to the Florida Panhandle. Much needed rain, maybe some windy conditions along the coast, of course. Gale warnings probably, just kind of a nasty few days coming up as this energy comes through, but nothing like what we had 5 years ago. I think that goes without saying. All right, in the rest of the Atlantic, check it out. There's 92L, well on its way to developing. And then this one, are you kidding me? It's something else trying to get going right off the coast of Africa. It was not on the 2 p.m. outlook, but the Euro is starting to show this one over here trying to develop. Maybe by 8 p.m. we'll see if persistence holds. These things can't just last for 6 hours and they're gone. You got to have some persistence. So we might have this one, and then maybe this one tries to develop. Wow, just working through the season. And also, as I'll show you on the Euro shortly, this hodgepodge is going to work its way out of the Atlantic, and it might develop out here. So we are getting close to the possibility. We only have 4 names left that we might use a couple of them, maybe 3. Then we just have 1 more to go, and we've used all 21 letters and names on the 2023 list of names. I had to keep all that straight, and I did. So stay tuned. We shall see. Interesting stuff, right? Real quick, looking on, I love this tab over here, this part of Tropical Tidbits. Wow, look at Lydia really getting its act together there, developing a decent core, and it's going to make landfall near or just to the south. It's hard to know for sure of Puerto Vallarta in here. Boy, this little bay right here, this indention, that concave shape, depending on how this comes in, that could be a rather serious situation. Look at the roundness of the central dense overcast, as we call it, the deep convection getting pushed up. A nasty situation unfolding for our friends down there in Mexico. Definitely going to get in touch with Judith here shortly. The Hurricane Center official forecast track brings the center just south, so that would be good in terms of total impacts, right? Because your onshore flow is going to be right there. But nevertheless, a pretty nasty situation for Mexico down there. Now I want to show you, back up here, let's take a look at 92L out in the eastern Atlantic. Look at how this is evolving on satellite. And starting to develop the outflow, and it's just got that look. This could be on its way to becoming a depression at some point. And then just real quick, 93L in the Gulf of Mexico. Interesting that the models are picking up on it. They're not just getting it, dropping it, and it's gone. And don't worry about some of these that are like, oh man, looks like it's going to come into Louisiana. I think a bulk of the energy is going to end up over the western Atlantic out here. Then the subtropical conditions are favorable, and when we say subtropical, they are out of the tropics and the subtropics here. Probably going to be favorable enough for this to get a name. That wouldn't shock me at all. One more thing, because this is important. I don't know exactly how you pronounce this, Bolaven, but it is a typhoon, and check it out. It is not too far from, what are these, the Mariana Islands out here? It's already gone through, so, there's that. But look at it on satellite. Wow, that is quite impressive. And what is this, Guam down here? You think I would know. I don't know exactly which islands are which, so don't yell at me in the comments. But that is a beast of a typhoon. Luckily, doing so after passing the islands out here. Guam's in there somewhere. I do know that. Let's get rid of that. So let's look at the GFS here and see what it is showing over the next week or so. And I'll just run it out on the little scroller up here, the scrubber, whatever you call it. And so the GFS takes that energy out from this hodgepodge, right, and tries to develop it. It's got some frontal characteristics. And if it can concentrate, you know how that works, and bundle that energy, 93L may get a name. And does it do so before 92L, which of course is right here, gets a name? There's that other energy coming off Africa. And there, of course, is Lydia making landfall. This is in just a few hours from now. There's that other impulse in the Gulf. So there's a lot going on. We don't have to have a Cat 5 for there to be a lot going on. There's just technically a lot going on out there. So yeah, that energy moves out of the Atlantic. It may try to develop into something. In fact, just kind of looking at things, there's Bermuda. Howard's just going to be like, all right, I'm out. I'm done. They haven't had a major hit or anything this year, but they've been bothered by quite a few. Howard's our friend in Bermuda, by the way. And Jay, who owns the Swizzle, a great restaurant. It certainly is. The Swizzle? Oh, yeah. Anyway, I got to stay focused. Bermuda. Yeah, you got to watch for this in the next couple of days. And now we're out to about a week right there. And maybe at a week's time, things will be nice and calm for a little bit. We got a trough digging in, it looks like. Nice big hole high pressure out over the Atlantic. Not much sign of a Central American gyre setting up just yet at a week's time, but look at some of these isobars, not quite, Mark. These wind flags coming in from the west here. These are coming in from the east, starting to get that overall tendency to turn the air down here and get it gyrating. That's why we call it a gyre, right? Meanwhile, our friend the Euro here, this goes out to 72 hours. That's the 6Z. We don't want that. Why? Let's see, what is it? It's 253. Come on. Let's see if we get the 12Z Euro. It's not available yet? That doesn't make any sense. Usually it starts cranking out by this time of the afternoon, but apparently it's not, so we won't worry about it. But yeah, I will show you the 6Z. And if we're going to do that, might as well just show you the full run here where we get 3-hour increments. From 6Z, which takes us to 90 hours, look at the eastern Atlantic there, and then watch out in the subtropical Atlantic, all kinds of stuff. There's one, maybe two. There's the system that emerges from the Gulf. Very interesting stuff coming across from all kinds of directions, right? I don't know what happened to the 12Z Euro. That's just weird. Usually, late in the afternoon like this, it starts rendering, but maybe I've gone crazy and I'm just not remembering correctly. That's possible too. Nevertheless, it is kind of busy out there. Nothing to really worry about, but a few things to keep an eye on. Unless you're in Puerto Vallarta and vicinity, especially south of there, I would be pretty worried about that. A Cat 3 coming, hopefully people will buckle down and it won't be too bad. Social media will show us what happens in that area. I haven't even checked to see if any of the hurricane chasers are there. Probably. Been very busy. All kinds of stuff going on in my world. But there's always time. At least I try to make time to do these updates. And that's a good segue to exit today's update with a thank you from all of us at HurricaneTrack. We appreciate you tuning in. It's not just me. We got our back-end team, all the folks over on Patreon. It's a big family. We all appreciate you coming along and hopefully learning something along the way. All right, now I'm out. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack. I'll be back with more for you tomorrow.